Hi, I'm Eric Goldschmidt. As a glass artist and demonstration supervisor for the Corning Museum of Glass, it's important I continue to stay informed about the history, craft, art, and science of glass. This thirst for information has transformed me into a bit of a glass pilgrim. There's just no better way to learn than going directly to the source. In the spring of 2014, this quest brought me to the celebrated glass center of Murano, Italy, a small island just off the coast of Venice with a history of glassmaking that dates all the way back to the 13th century. I'd like to share some of this experience with you. For most of my trip, I stayed on the island of Murano or just across the lagoon in Venice. However, I had another very talented Italian flameworker with whom I had hoped to visit a little ways outside of Venice. Simone Crestani is a brilliant glass artist who is beginning to make quite a name for himself in design galleries around the world. I first had the opportunity to meet him when he came to the studio of the Corning Museum of Glass as a teaching assistant for well-known flameworker Emilio Santini. Simone made such an impression on us here at the museum that he has since been asked to return to the studio to co-teach with Emilio and to teach his own solo classes as well. When I first met him, Simone and his wife Lorenza were living in the United States such that she could pursue her studies in the medical field. They have since moved back to their home in Vicenza, Italy, and Simone finished building his new studio shortly before my visit. He was nice enough to welcome me for a demo and an interview. For his demonstration, Simone decided to make a wine decanter. A full-size decanter is a big physical and technical challenge to blow by hand for most flameworkers, but Simone is quite adept at working larger forms on the torch with great precision. He begins with a section of 70mm clear borosilicate tubing. There really aren't many flameworkers who would be able to use such large diameter tubing by hand, but Simone seems perfectly comfortable with it. Most artists and craftsmen I know don't work with anything larger than 50mm tubing by hand. To begin, he stretches out what will be the neck to the vessel. Once he has the shape of the neck properly formed and he's got it the right length, he'll be ready to blow out the bottom form. Typically, we try to edit out a lot of the reheating parts of the flameworking and glass blowing processes, as they do tend to be very repetitive. With Simone, we've chosen to keep most of his heats and reheats on the finished video. There's a lot to be learned from how he handles such a large tube during his heats and reheats. One of the toughest things for the flameworker to contend with on flameworking such a large form is the heat that radiates from the glass. It's also really tiresome physically to support the weight of such a large tube while still turning it accurately. You will notice Simone has worked out a way to release the glass from his right hand as it gets too hot. He makes this look very simple, but it's actually extremely difficult. The way Simone uses the yoke and his bench top to support the tube is an extremely smart way to deal with the heat and weight of such an object. When he gets the temperature of the tube just right, now it can really start to inflate it. He'll lean against the table for a little bit of support, but he still needs to make sure that everything stays centered throughout the entire form. Very difficult way to handle the glass. Now that he's got the bubble inflated, well, he's got a very specific shape that he's shooting for. He wants to widen the form, make it a little more squat. So this will take a little more heat, a little bit of centrifugal force, and a little more inflation. Most of the work that Simone makes for his full body of work can take days or even weeks to produce. So the decanter is actually a fairly quick form for him and works out perfectly as a demonstration piece. Now that the bubble is shaped up the way he likes it, we just want to even out the way the bubble form meets up with the neck, make everything exactly the right angle, and also make sure everything's perfectly centered. Some last little adjustments to the bubble form, getting it just the way he needs it. And the next step will be to open the top of the decanter. Now, to open the top of the form, he'll use a very narrow flame. He wants to heat the glass on a very precise line right where he wants it to come apart. So as the glass begins to soften just on this very consistent line, he can start to pull the glass, thin it out. And as it gets thin enough, the thrust of the flame will be enough to push through the glass and create an opening. Now that the tube is opened, well, we want to make sure he's got a nice clean form at the top so it will pour properly and have the proper aesthetic to match the rest of the form. So this will take a little more heating of the lip area. We'll want to press the lip, make sure it's nice and uniform and straight. So we can use a graphite plate to do that little bit of shaping. And now to create a flare at the lip, we'll use a graphite reamer. And now that he's got the flare of the lip just right, it's time to finish the form by removing the handle from the bottom and flattening the bottom. To do this, he does need to support the form somehow, and he's even designed his own tools to grab the glass just right to be able to support it accurately and finish the bottom of the form. So with a little extra heat towards the bottom of the form, he'll be able to remove the handle with the handle removed, we want to neaten up the shape of the bottom of the form. Make sure all the glass is dispersed uniformly. You can do this just with some heat and rotation, using gravity a little bit. You'll want to indent the bottom a little. He's using gravity to do that right here. And to make sure the piece sits properly on a table, well, he checks on his graphite plate, make sure it truly sits flat and straight. A last little blast of heat to even the temperature throughout the bottom of the bubble, and we'll be just about finished. And there we have our beautiful finished decanter.
So we are here in Vicenza, Italy, just on the outskirts of Vicenza, Italy, with Italian glass artist Simone Crestani at his studio. And Simone is somewhat new to the international glass scene. We're starting to see his work around more and more galleries internationally. He has recently started teaching in Corning, and we're very happy that he's been sharing his talents there. So Simone, if we could start with some very basic information, where you were born, when you were born, how long you've been working with glass, how you got started.
I was born in Marostica, which is a small town in the north of Vicenza. I started to blow glass in 2000, so it's 14 years now, and I'm working by myself from 4 years.
Mm-hmm. How you've been working by yourself for 4 years?
Yes.
What were you doing for the first 10 years?
For the first 10 years, I've been working in a factory, so as a glass blower. It's where I learn.
Mm-hmm.
And
what's the name of the factory? What sort of work do they make?
The name of the factory is Massimo Lunardon's company, and they used to make goblet and table objects and small sculptures, things like that.
Mm-hmm. For most of my trip, I've been in Murano, Italy, where as kids grow up, they expect to wind up in the glass industry.
Of course.
When did you start to realize that maybe glass would be part of your life?
For me, it was just a case. I mean, I was looking for a job for the summertime, and I crashed to this factory that was looking for an assistant. Mm-hmm. I started to work there, and so I'm here.
Nice. Good. When you were growing up, did you have other ideas as to what sort of work you might get into? Does your family have a history of some different type of work? Or?
No, my father is a wood maker, so. Mm-hmm. But I didn't think about glasses, so it happens just for kids, as I told you. Mm-hmm. And I felt in love immediately when I started to play with it.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. It was maybe like a destiny. I can say that because
It kind of found you.
yeah, it
Yeah.
kind of found me.
So your father works with wood, so there's
There's some craft
crafting. Yeah.
in the family, but it's different from glass, of course.
Oh, sure. So I've noticed with your work, it's largely clear glass.
Yes.
And maybe some transparent colors.
Yes.
Why do you work that way?
Because I like clear glass first, and because I think I very believe that the most special things about glass is the transparency.
Mm-hmm.
So the clear glass can have a lot of I don't know how to say that.
In italiano,
in-
if it's easier.
il vetro trasparente può assumere delle colorazioni rispetto alla luce, come lavora rispetto alla luce del sole, alla luce di un ambiente.
So it's a little more pure.
Yes,
And it accepts the light.
exactly.
Yeah.
And also you can work with very different technique with the clear glass. So when you put a blow piece together with a solid piece or with some components, you can create the color in the clear glass.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Where do you draw inspiration from? I see, as I look around your gallery here, and as I've looked at your work, it seems like a lot of natural pieces.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I love nature. I love everything about nature, about animals, about plants. So I think that the nature is the first artist. So we got just to take the ideas from that and then develop the idea in your own way.
Mm-hmm. Where do you see your work going in the future?
I really don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I made my first colored piece after moved in my new studio because maybe the future can be colored a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. Have you've traveled? We met in the U.S.
Yeah.
What brought you to the USA?
Me and my wife moved in the USA because she got a job there, and so we decided to go there to discover this country, and it was amazing for me because I discovered a big world of glass that it's impressive how it works there, because here in Italy glass it's like a lobby, so you got to be inside to know glass, but in the United States the glass is for everyone. Mm-hmm. And that's
How did you first start to connect with American glassmakers? When you first moved over, you didn't really know anybody.
I didn't really know anybody, so I started to look in the web to find someone who was working glass in Virginia, and I found my great friend Emilio Santini that introduced me to Corning, to the American glass movement.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And since then, you've found more and more people.
Yeah. But I got to thanks a lot Emilio.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Now you've since moved back to Vicenza.
Yeah.
Do you have many people in this area that you can share glass with?
I still collaborate with the factory where I used to work. Mm-hmm. So I design some products for there, and I used to go there to work when I need to make big pieces with a lathe or when I need a bigger kiln. So we keep a collaboration.
Very good. So you've done little bits of teaching.
A little bit.
Yeah, we met at Corning, and
Yeah.
you did some teaching.
Yeah.
Is that important to you to do more teaching?
Yeah, because I didn't think that, but I love to teach, because when you're teaching, you find people that are in love with the glass, and with a lot of ideas. So I always say that I bring home more what I brought to there. So
I can see that.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Your work is being shown not particularly in glass galleries.
No,
You're more in.
I'm more into interior design galleries. Because I really don't know why, but I got into this field, so I'm trying to keep that.
What's your educational background? Do you have a background from design school?
Not really.
No, it's
No.
just something
It
you
was
developed.
just grew together with glass, with my passions, with my attitudes.
How did your experiences in the U.S. help you to grow, and what sort of differences are you seeing from your works before coming to the U.S. and then now that you're back here in Vicenza?
It helps me because I started to look at the glass in a different way. So I put inside my glass new techniques, new different way to look at the glass. So after that, my pieces are changing in thickness, are changing also in techniques to use the little bit of color that I use into the pieces.
So in the factory where you were learning, was it all clear glass?
Not really. They used to do some objects using colors, but they use colors in, I don't know, in industry way. So puts colors over the glass and melt together. There was not an idea to how to use the color. So we learned step by step, because the color, the borosilicate colors, they arrived in Italy maybe 10 years ago.
Who was making that color? Where was it coming from?
Oh, they come from United States.
Yeah.
It's the same color that you use, but
Yeah.
of course here it is arrived a couple of years later. But we don't have a lot of flame workers here, so we got to learn by ourselves how to use that. So for me, United States, it was very helpful for that, because.
Nice. So your work is a big part of who you are.
Yeah.
And what sort of lessons for life does your work teach you? How has it helped you to grow as a human being?
What my work? You mean what my works teach me?
Yes.
I believe the respect for the nature, for the natural things. I believe that.
Nice.
I
Yeah.
would like to say that I hope that it's also the flame working can be grow together with the glass movement, because I think that flame working is push a little bit in this part, and I think that maybe people didn't understand the very potential of flame working.